Mike, it's a significant moment this Saturday when Gavin will become the club's longest serving manager, overtaking Basil Bright's incredible record. You must be looking forward to the weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a massive weekend. Obviously, no one ever thought that Basil Bright's record of 490 games would ever be beaten. Having said that, I've been lucky enough to work with Gav since 2007, and it's a tribute to him, his wife, that he's going to break that record. 491 games is a huge achievement, and rightly so. It'll be celebrated. Knowing Gav like I do, it's going to be a big day. The chairman's put on loads of stuff, but I know Gav. He doesn't like a fuss, and he would give it all up for 3 points off the current league champions, I'm sure.
You were lucky enough to play for Basil. Can you tell us a little bit about him and your relationship with him?
Yeah, I did. I mean, the only problem is I think I'm the only one in the town or in the club who actually I played under Basil. He signed me when I was 18, and I've worked with Gav, so it must make me about 95 really, to be honest. Basil signed me when I was 18. I came to the club. He was very instrumental in my football life. Ironically, him and Gav were very, very similar in their traits of what have you, and very similar in what they achieved with the clubs, both coming back for a second time, both getting the club out of a huge amount of trouble and having a massive amount of success. I was lucky enough to work with him. He gave me my Southern League debut, which was the first team debut. He took me to Sweden on a pre-season tour, which established me at the club at the time. The only difference I would say between Gav and Basil was Basil was a tremendous, friendly, loving person, but he was old school. He wore a sheepskin to games, whereas obviously Gav's a tracksuit man through and through.
You mentioned it already, but did you ever think anyone would ever overtake Basil's incredible record?
And at the time, when you're going through game after game after game, you just don't realise how many games they accumulate. And then when somebody years ago said that he'd achieved the 490 games, you think, well, that's going to take some beating. 490 games is a lot of games. And then, like I said, I've been privileged enough to work with Gav, and it seems like yesterday he came to the club, and before you know it, 491 on Saturday. Tremendous accolade and an achievement, having 491 games.
You've worked with Gavin since the moment he joined in 2007. Tell us about your first time you met him and your first impressions of it.
It's well documented the first time I met him, I've got to say. It was 2007, it was August. I can remember the day like it was yesterday. It was a boiling hot day. The chairman at the time had told me that there was 2 people going for the manager's job. He appointed the first one, but for some reason he turned it down. And then he arranged for me to meet the new manager in the car park on a boiling hot summer's afternoon. I got there early, and then in walked this, he looked about 14 or 15, lad with a stopwatch around his neck, a pair of shorts and flip-flops on, and I'm thinking, whoa, here we go. This is another student. What are we in for here? The club had just been beaten, I think it was 6-0 by somebody, and were probably at the lowest of lows. In he walked, and the first thing he said to me, he said, "Oh, hi, Mike. What a club this is." He said, "We need to get back in the Premier and back into Europe." And I can remember thinking, hang on a minute, we just got beat 6-0, and now all of a sudden you're talking about Europe. So I was very sceptical at the time, but obviously all these years later, 491 games later, he's still here. And everything he told me he was going to achieve, Premiership status, getting back into Europe, and like I said, 491 games, and we've been through some major ups and downs.
You touched upon it there, but you've both been through a lot together, and there's clearly an extreme fondness for each other there. Having achieved incredible things together, both on and off the field, in terms of the club's court win and ultimate survival in 2013, through to qualifying for the Europa League, what's your best memory working with Gavin during this time?
To be honest, so many memories. I mean, when we first started, 2007, I had my doubts in the first week, but then within a fortnight, he'd won me over. He had the same principles, the same high standards that we wanted, and the club was at an all-time low. We didn't even have kits. I mean, people laugh at that because Barrytown were the Man United of the time after all their European games and what have you. But we were at an all-time low. No kit, no training kit, difficult to get players. But Gav sat down and slowly began to turn everything around. I tried to retire about 5 or 6 times, but his enthusiasm is just uncompetable, really, to be honest. He won me over, and before you knew it, he won other people over. He got players in, he got sponsors in, and over the years, gradually, just like I'd worked with Basil, he gradually, slowly turned the club around. And all of a sudden, he got people on board that were a massive influence, people like Lyndon, Mark, the present chairman, all the staff and everything. He got a good team around him, people he trusted, and the club just grew from strength to strength, to the extent of now, the present day, you've got a thriving chairman club that's packed all the time, that everybody would give their left hand for. The playing side is probably one of the best squads I've worked with. Him and Hannah have turned the club around dramatically. So that memory-wise, you go through it. I mean, the court case in 2013, Europe, I mean, beating Bala in Bala for him to achieve the European spot that we hadn't achieved for 16 years or whatever it was unbelievable. But also along the way, there were ups and downs. I saw him sacked and reinstated within hours, and it's been a roller coaster. But the last 6-7 years, where the club has been re-established with decent people working in the club, and it's been excellent, and it's gone from strength to strength, and it's been a pleasure to work with him and for him, I got to say. And at the moment, I still try and retire, but the enthusiasm of the club keeps you going, because obviously I don't want to be shopping on a Saturday.
Gav described you when he inducted you into the Hall of Fame as, Mike is someone I couldn't do the job without, and frankly I wouldn't want to. We're guessing the feeling is mutual.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like I said, I've known him for a long time now, and when you work with somebody as closely as you do, if you last as long as we've lasted, obviously you know the ins and outs of how people work, and I trust him implicitly. I would trust him with my kids, everything. He is exemplary. His standards, his man management, his performances are second to none, as far as I'm concerned. And it keeps me going. I mean, at my age, I should be sat home having a cup of tea with my feet up, but the enthusiasm he shows and the players show, it keeps me keeps bringing me back week after week, and I thoroughly enjoy working with him. When I've worked with him, it's also about the legacy that he's built here and left here. You know, when we came, it was an ordinary pitch that you played on once a week. Now, every night is rammed full of kids, the academy. He's got 200 kids in the academy, 200 girls. You've got walking football. You've got pan disability. You've got veterans football. The club there's functions here all the time. It's thriving. It's that legacy. It's not so much about memories, but he's turned the club round completely. Him and Hannah and all the people that work in his team. You know, the chairman, all the staff that work in the club. It's gone from where you used to turn up and go to games in your own car, rammed full of equipment, to now the club having 2 vans to transport all the kit and everything round. The club is transformed, and it's an absolute pleasure to work with him and the club at the moment. Thank you.